Live mics. Mics are on, just so y'all know.
2-minute warning. You almost admitted, Mike or Josh? Are you almost admitted? Everybody admitted? Almost. Okay. Very good. One minute. One o'clock, call the meeting to order. Please rise and recite pledge allegiance with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call. Here.
Treasurer Anderson,
Yes.
Clerk Squires,
Here.
Trustee Appy,
Here.
Trustee Osling.
Here. Thank you. Good morning, board members. Good morning, everyone else. We need to approve our agenda, which there's one thing on it, short-term rental draft ordinance discussion. And as advertised before, the discussion heavily worded is on having the board be able to discuss this. We've listened at public hearings. We've taken in numerous emails, numerous written correspondence, of which all the board has had an opportunity. So what I would like to do today is to have a motion to amend our agenda to remove the first section of public comments. We will have one at the end. So that people can reflect on anything they may have heard or otherwise. But for the expediting of the meeting, I'd like to give the board the time that I think they need to kind of spill out thoughts. So that being said, I would entertain a motion to amend it, folks, to eliminate the first public comment section. So moved. Thank you, Treasurer Anderson.
Support that.
Support Trustee Appy. Any further discussion, board? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. It was the same. That motion carries. Thank you. So short-term rental discussion. So, as you've heard me say in previous meetings, that the board obviously has listened, done all those things, and it's time now for the various board members to, I guess, let's process and ferret it out. The draft A.4, of which we knew as a board had to have some language corrections or otherwise. So the first thing I'd like to ask the board, though, in a public forum is, after reviewing everything that you have and what we've gone through so far, is there anyone on the board here that does not want to endeavor in any type of short-term rental ordinance? If so, tell me now.
I think we need one.
So you think you need, and
we need to move forward with.
As your words would say, in the past, to do nothing is not an option.
For me, that's my personal opinion, but okay. So with that, we'll continue on then. So I think what we'll do, board, is grab a hold of this A.4 and start going down through it, paragraph by paragraph.
If I may.
You may.
You're a board member,
you may.
After the A4 was put out to public, you and I met with our attorney
Yes.
to get some clarification on some of the wording in that. He sent us an email, we all got it, as to what his wording for changes, which some of it's just moving stuff around. One of it had more of a more defined definition of what would be done with principal residence. I took what he had sent us and I made those changes to the draft, and I'd like to hand those out to you so that you have that alongside with what you already have, because I think we'll want to work off
Appreciate
of that one rather than off of.
So it doesn't have to look like that.
Thank you. Yes,
Right.
I appreciate that. It was,
Yes, I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Jim, for doing the extra work.
Yes.
thank you, sir.
It wasn't a lot of work, it just needed to be done.
Yes, it did.
Both guys.
Okay, that being said, then, under draft A4, and the one that Jim handed out to you, which, Jim, if you could, as we go along, just kind of compare and contrast where that might have been put in at, so.
Sure.
So the public understands where that is. So the short-term rental ordinance, right in the top paragraph, with the preamble there of an ordinance enacted under that section as amended. Does anybody have any additions, corrections, or discussion on that paragraph? It's in italics. Board members, anybody have any heartburn over that preamble?
No,
No? Okay, hearing that, then we'll move on. Section 1, purpose. The purpose of the ordinance. It's intended to protect public health, safety, general welfare of the people and property by requiring the licensing of short-term rentals in the township. So ordinance is intended to protect the integrity, permanence. You can read it. Anything there, folks?
None on my part.
Good.
No problem.
Mary Jo?
Nope.
Number 2, applicability. That particular paragraph. Any discussion?
I didn't have anything on it.
Okay, good. Nothing. Section 3 in the definitions anywhere.
I would only mention that I have comments later that will affect the definitions, so I'm just not gonna, I'm gonna wait till then, and it won't make any sense now, so I'll just leave and we'll come back to.
Is it a
definition.
proposal for an insertion into this, or is it a?
Yeah, some terms that would end up in the definitions, but they won't make any sense now until I talk about them when it comes up later, so.
Yeah, okay, so we should asterisk and come back to the
Yeah.
definitions.
Yep.
Any other board member have any thing they want me to, or that I want to asterisk here and come back to later in the public? Okay. You good? Don't let me
Yeah.
go too fast, please.
Yeah, I won't like.
Okay, I mean, don't.
Oh, yeah,
All right.
I'm fine.
Okay. So that included all of, shall we say, A all the way through P, which was a property exemption. The property is occupied as a principal residence as the definition. So everybody good on that? All right,
Yep.
moving to section 4, registration and licensing required. Anything there, folks? Jim, any language changes, attorney?
Don't see, it looks like the same verbiage.
Yeah, I'll tell you when it gets.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, section 4, folks.
Nope. I didn't
Good.
have anything.
Good.
Section 5, application for the short-term rental license. Anybody have any comment on that up to and including? And I guess, I don't know whether you want to wait till we get to a potential date because it had a sunset date in there. And so does anybody want to talk about that here or wait till there?
Are you talking about like 11?
Subject to section 5D of the ordinance.
Oh, D.
Subject to 5D of our ordinance, which one of the hot buttons there appears to be the 0 after 4 years. Want to do that now or wait?
What do you want to do? What are you saying?
You want to talk?
Are you asking us if we want to change anything here?
Yeah, do you want to change anything subject to section 5D of this one?
Now you saying D is a dog?
Yeah, it.
Total number of licenses?
5D of the, you gotta go all the way back to the section of total number of licenses, actually. Where that,
Oh,
shall we wait?
Well, actually, I have in 5D subsection 4, it
We'll find it.
it talks about license holders may renew.
Get me in the right one, Lee.
Well, in the newer one, and this is where I was gonna, you kind of got moving along. The changes that the attorney made have to do with section D. And most of it was just moving wording to different subsections. And on the original A4, that section 5 is gone. But the other sections are still there, they just have been moved.
Okay,
But-
let's wait till we get to that then.
But I will say, if you're talking about 5D, I'm wondering if the renewal process shouldn't maybe be 60 days prior to renewal rather than 30. If this, the way this is, and this is on the new one I just gave you, it's on page 6 on the very top.
mhm.
The way it's worded, it says 30 days prior to the renewal of the license. If we're going to follow this as it's written, the people who get a license on the first year are going to be the same people through the rest of that time period, well, for the most part. And I'm just wondering if 30 days, if we shouldn't give them 60 days prior to allow, I mean, it's a minor point, but
No,
No.
there's no reason not to do that. I think makes perfect sense.
I think most people want to get it done. And
I sent a birthday card to my sister in Florida and it took her 2 weeks to get it. So I agree, 60
yeah,
days.
it's, if you guys are in agreement with it, I would propose that we change that to 60 instead of 30.
All right, yes, sir.
If appropriate, let me lay out an idea that I had. It sort of melts through along this line. I think this is an appropriate time for it, I think. It's a bit lengthy. I can pass this out to you or maybe
Please do.
Okay.
We can follow along here.
And once again, this is, there's been a lot of
Thank you.
effort put into this, and this is just mine interfering with that effort a little bit, but it was a thought. And now let me just run through it. In some place in there, I'm not sure exactly where all this might go, but being that many properties are already rented for the summer, the township proposed the following. Foster the draft STR ordinance through its normal process of approvals and hearings and legal, et cetera. It's likely this will not be completed until early summer at the earliest. Initiate the license registration process now. Work out the initial compliance bugs prior to an effective date of the ordinance. Notify all that have participated in the ordinance process through emails, letters, public hearings, that there is a one-time window to apply for a license between April 1st, 26 and July 1st of 26. There's a $100 one-time non-refundable application fee. This early registration window will provide time to explain the rules that are in the ordinance, such as the septic, garbage, notifications on the house, safety, approval from neighbors, et cetera. If they successfully meet all the requirements, they will be issued a certificate assuring them of a license for the calendar year of 2027. Licenses for 2027 will be issued on January 10th of 27. No new applications will be taken after July 1st of 2026. No new licenses issued after that. Cap the number of licenses at 80 or more appropriately at 2% of the properties that what the number.
Available, it's like 3,900.
Yeah, whatever that number that we have talked about. Cap the number at whatever that number is. I put 80, but whatever the 2% is. Monitor the program through 2026, through this summer. Any violations will be recorded. The owner notified of the violations. They wouldn't be subject to any penalties. They would just be notifications to making sure we're clarifying the rules. They may be told when things are unacceptable and inappropriate. And so there's no question about it moving through 2027 when we start over. The sunset clause in the current ordinance will be reviewed by the board in the fall of 2029 and either allowed to remain or extended, but the sunset clause would stay in the ordinance at this point. The number of available licenses could be reevaluated at that time. And that last piece does not approve, that last change of 75-foot separation is something I added here that should go elsewhere. So disregard that one.
Is that that one there is the well?
Yeah. Yeah. So what that says is we open up we get the administration piece settled in the next couple of months, and we open applications up. We know, and the renters know who they are, and we can take those applications for a relatively short period of time, 2 months. That's plenty of time. And then once we have those in, we know what we're dealing with. We know how many there are, and we can get those entered into the appropriate administration. The police can get them entered into the appropriate software. That can be done through the summer, and then we can make sure we know exactly what it is we're looking to do for licenses, and then the licensees will be identified in late fall, and licenses issued January 1st for the next calendar year. They'll have, of course, the whole winter, and which is, there's some rentals that they would take effect at that point. The rental season is more in into the summer, and so we'd be gearing up for that rental season throughout the winter. It gives a chance to ease into it, and then move. And then it would also move the administration to, that would be back into the definitions. I added a couple things like an application term and a universal application date and an initial registration to kind of cover some of these things that would be included in this. But that would give us, in a somewhat slower time period to do the licenses and make it easy to understand and know that it's the calendar year.
Jim, what was your third thing? You said application term in a definition, an initial app date.
Oh, an application term where the township shall set a specific term by policy.
Yep.
That short-term rental applications may be submitted. This is in definitions.
Yep.
And I think it will end up being item E, is initial registration. All applications for a short-term rental shall be submitted during a single one-time window as established by Gerrish Township policy. And item Q, universal application date. After applications for short-term rentals are submitted and licenses granted for the initial availability, renewals for subsequent years will all be subject to the same renewal date as established in the policy.
So what I'm gathering is you're saying that for 2026, there would be no ordinance in effect at that time, right?
That's right.
2027, 28, 29 calendar years, the ordinance would be in place. You want to have an application that would start on April 1st through July 1st of 26 for the 2027 year. The renewal then, if we use the 60-day rule, would be for the subsequent years would be November, December for renewing.
Right.
And are we, if somebody drops out, are we filling that back up to 80? Or are we going to let that attrite out?
Well, that's elsewhere in the ordinance, but I say it trits out to the point of, that's my proposal anyway, is that it trits out. If you lose a license for whatever reason, you choose not to renew, you don't send in your application, you miss the application date, God forbid. If you have consistently poor performers at your site and there's reasons for the police to be there more than they should be, we'd have to define exactly what that is. I think it's pretty stringent though. That's what we're talking about. Then that can cause the loss of your license. And once you lose that license, you don't get it back. We're looking to, I'm proposing that we take every opportunity to reduce the number of licenses as time goes on.
And I guess this might be the time to put this out there. You know, the Supreme Court case last summer helped identify what an STR is, which basically through that particular case, they kind of defined it. And, if you have a residential property and you rent it out for more than a couple of weeks out of the year, it rises to the level of what they deemed commercial activity. And I know that there's been, that activity probably historically for quite some time, either before zoning and even after, and because it just was not looked at as an issue. But now that it's proliferated the lake in the around surrounding area so much, it is captured our attention. And this is the same case. You could go in any community throughout our state and around the United States that's become an issue. With that said, and I'm going to look at this just from a very black and white standpoint and not the emotional part of it. But if you just look at it from a legal standpoint, our forefathers, the people that were here before us that set the master plan and the zoning and created the R1 and R2 and the definitions of all that, and did it with the purpose of not having commercial activity in the middle of those areas. And if we allow this to continue on, we in essence are allowing one individual to go into a residential area, purchase that property, and redefine that as commercial by default without any input from their neighbors, from us, and it is basically defying the zoning as it is originally intended. And from that standpoint, that's I think why we myself and whoever else was in agreement with me put that sunset clause in there so that we could get it reset back to what it should have been in the first place. That's not going to make everybody happy, but I think by doing this with a 3-year window or almost 4, it allows those people that have made those investments to reconsider how they're going to use that property, whether it's to sell it and not take a loss, or convert it to a long-term rental, or convert it to their residential, whatever they want to do. But it's not like we're going to cut the knees out from under you right now and then put you in a potential financial distress. But I think that's a fair way of approaching that if we're going to go that road. And I sit on the Plan Commission. I've learned to appreciate in the last year the perspective there and the time that's put in. And I know that most people think that if you own property, it's mine, I can do what I want. I can understand if it's your residence and you're trying to pay your property taxes and you want to rent it for a couple of weeks, I get that. And I would not want to interfere with that. But when it's your second, third, fourth, whatever, that's not, it doesn't rise to that sort of urgency to me. That's a financial investment. That is not your home. And so I look at that a little differently than I would if it was your residence. And based on that, I'm in favor of keeping that sunset clause in there because I think it's the right thing to do. If the subsequent board comes along and they decide that, that the circumstances are changed, or if there was an overwhelming public outcry, but what I've seen from the results of what people have sent, as far as I can tell, the majority of the people that live in the area would rather not have an STR next door to them. That's my
I spent several years on the planning commission, and I echo what Jim said with regard to the work that goes into making sure this community is what it is, and it complies with the work that was done in the master plan, and people look to that, and this is the kind of community that we want. So, and to me, it does not include commercial activity in a residential area. So this is an effort to try to bring that back, but still make it at least somewhat fair, like Jim said, to people who've got some time. It's not going to happen. This is not going to happen overnight. They've got some time to work their investment, to manage their investment for a couple of years, but with the understanding it gives them some opportunity and some window to move on and either keep it as whatever they decide to do with these properties. I also have looked at listened to the public hearing the other night and went through the stack of correspondence that we've got. I took the time myself to enter it into a spreadsheet and identified the properties, the addresses, and I did my best to look up the names of people that identified themselves, and kind of got a feel in my mind for the balance of the general public opinion. And with that, I am personally comfortable with this direction of the sunset, which is probably the sunset, I think, is probably the most controversial part of what we've been talking about. And but like I said, I believe it's fair, and at least gives people an opportunity to to take whatever steps they feel are necessary from here. So I have others, but I think we haven't got to them yet, or maybe we have to jump back to them. But that was for your consideration as an idea to be written into the ordinance. It doesn't fall into, I don't think it falls into a particular section. It has to be kind of drafted into more than a couple sections. So
Yes, it does.
So,
Go with it.
yeah, if it's something that you're at all interested in.
So I have a question on and I know you and I had a conversation about the process of approvals. If you don't have an ordinance in place, what compels me to want to participate in your process or policy?
Well, the ordinance,
If we don't pass it, put a date that it's
Yeah.
effective and working towards a date, then how do we curb folks from deciding just to do that?
well, I think I pictured an ordinance passed by that time in the next 3 months,
Okay.
but that would include this language, but the effective date and implementation of the rules and regs wouldn't start until next year.
Understand that. Then I thought maybe you're talking about two different processes.
Well, and
Our policy would compel no one in the public to follow my policy.
you might want to get on the mic in there.
It's on.
But, I originally, in my mind, I'm being a numbers guy, I was thinking fiscal year, April 1st to March 31st, which matches our fiscal year for the township. The way we put this deadline with the sunset, it's a calendar year. And there's been concern that if we try to implement this too quickly this spring, we're gonna fall on our face because we're gonna have some, and then we still are gonna have issues, even they may not have contemplated. But it does give those people that have made an outcry, and I heard them say, hey, I've got rentals this summer. What if I don't get a license? And so implementing it, starting on the calendar year of 27 with the application, and that date could change. We could pick a different
Yeah.
date, but that would allow the rentals, that all of them, to still do whatever it is that they intended or got commitments for this year. But come next year, if you don't have a license, you're you got a problem. But this does take care of that issue.
Right.
That because Brian brought that up to me earlier, and I think that, I'd like to say this thing's going to get rolled out and we could have it all running by April 1st. That was my thought. But we've had delays because of getting stuff back to the attorney. We've had delays with setting, public hearings and meetings. And I just, I'm a self-employed person by trade, and I can make things happen in a day. Government doesn't move that fast. So, I've had to learn that, so, having that time period to allow our person that's going to be in charge of the STR to get the paperwork ready, because we got to get the forms and the process, and I believe it'll be processed through the PD, their software. April 1st might be an ambitious date. So I don't have a problem with what you're proposing as far as timeline. But I do, and I guess this is something the board needs to make sure we're on the same boat. Believe that sunset clause should stay in there. And I think that we need to make sure that's hashed out as part of this.
I think, as I mentioned, just one second, the one thing I think I mentioned it was that this would give us the summer for people to understand what the rules are, and what it's going to take to make all this happen. There's a septic component. This properties are going to have to comply with the health departments. That's not nothing. And that may take some time to get those.
And on that note, I got a call from one of the STR potential applicants this week, and she, based on the hearing, decided to make that call to
Health department.
And so her cost, it was a little over $400 to do what she needs to have it sound like
To code,
From nature or what? From the health department?
for the health department to
to
get
have
the
it up to
paperwork,
code.
To inspect it.
to inspect it and get the paperwork to show that you are in compliance. Because if they don't have, as you call the purple dot, they don't have necessarily the size of the tank and everything in there. So they'd have to go check the field and tank. and
So the
all.
person that called didn't have the necessary, it was
When-
inquiring?
She said that the quote from the health department to get what we were asking for was about a little over $400.
So if I have a purple dot, is there a difference?
It's possible that if you just put if that house is fairly new or had a new septic tank in it or field, or, had work done, it's possible that they might be a little cheaper because they'd have that information.
Yeah.
But you're still gonna, I assume, like in her case, I don't think I think sergeants have been pumping it, but nobody's done an inspection.
There's a couple things that could happen. Just like Jim said, you could find out, you could make application and they look in their records and they find that they have a 5-year-old inspection on that property and all's good. Everything is compliant, what it needs. It might say in the records that your drain field is only at 40% or at 55% of the required size. And if that's the case, you may be, and it's, I don't think it's specifically in here, but the intention would be that you needed to bring that up to 100%. When a septic ordinance comes into effect, the proposal would be that it comes up to 100% of that code, meaning that you're going to have to do something with your drain field. That's not in there, so it would be, but it would be a matter of getting your property compliant with the health department's current requirements. Now, some of them have no information on it, and that's what actually that $400 sounds like a pretty good deal, because I thought it was going to be more than that.
Well, that's assuming you don't have to do anything. They're just
Yeah,
inspected.
just to get
Getting your
the inspected.
paperwork to go. But I just thought I'd point that out. You know, there is going to be some cost to that.
And time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me go over, this has been a silent side of the table, so you folks have any reflection on the commercial or on leaving the date or a potential review date, if you will, it would be commercial, need to be commercial and residential unless otherwise changed or addressed by that board, if you will, in the future.
Go ahead, Mary Jo.
I'm a little confused at your question, how you worded that question, but, and speaking to Jim Oslings, I like that idea a lot. I think it's a lot less stress for the homeowners that are renting, give them a little more time. I think it's going to be less stress on the police department that has to enforce this. For us to have, it's almost like having a practice, period for both sides, the renters and us, the enforcers. What else was I going to say? Did that answer your question or not?
Yeah, it did.
And as far as the sunset, I do know that the board will probably most likely look different.
Any board would.
Yeah,
would.
they can
Listen,
change it
these
then.
ordinances are amendable in any board.
Yeah.
It's just a matter
Oh.
of, if they desire to do so. Once you guys get done, a couple questions to the chief over here, but anything else on that?
I don't think so.
Shall,
The sunset clause,
yes, specifically because we kind of.
Okay, was it sunset?
that.
Okay,
The
sorry.
sunset
Get it back on
clause,
track.
I do agree with it for the now.
No.
I think it's what we have to do for now because of what we are dealing with. I think we need to, once we do the number that we have, we're not going to add any more. If one drops off, we're just going to try it back. I think for what this purpose is with this ordinance, that's all we can do. I do believe personally that after we've put this type of an ordinance in place, that once we have some data, that we may be able to look at doing different types of things that we haven't. You can't make decisions like that without having the data to see what evolves. And at this point, I am supporting the sunset clause, but my personal feelings, I especially after the hearing, and I know that the people that come out were there for that purpose, but the real is that we don't have the hotels or motels and the amount of little resorts we used to have. No, we don't want to commercialize our residential areas by any means, but I think this is a good start to get us going in a direction of reining it in a little bit.
Chief, obviously, anything that we would do up here in the legislative end, I would want to make sure that you had a copy to look at over, because you'll be essentially supervising that STR piece, like any other ordinance. But what would you, or do you see, I think you do, but certainly you have the ability within the program. I don't think you've changed the program that we've had, have you?
No,
You can still put in different special interest codes, if you will, special circumstances codes in which you can track, obviously the short term, you can track any of the oh, whether it was overuse of alcohol, like all the rest of that, you can put in specific codes that officers, if they have responded to those things at those residences, because they would be marked as a short-term rental in a special circumstance code. And if a board a few years from now, a couple years from now or whatever said, Chief, can you generate something for us as to what it looked like? Are you confident you could give the board a fairly informative glimpse and view of the activity? You know, one person came up to me at. Good.
Yeah, we be able to do that. Basically, we'll create a file class for the short-term rental ordinance, like we have a file class for all our other ordinances, and then we can put that into our RMS system. And when we get a call or complaint, or that STR coordinator gives us the paperwork, says, hey, this address is out of compliance, or whatever the circumstances might be, or we get called there and or says, oh, it's a short-term rental, then document it in RMS search of that file class, and we'd be able to say, you know, from this time, and we can break it down to a date range. From this time period to this time period, we've had 50 calls, rentals, and obviously there would be a documented report about it. That way, I mean, I've had several people ask me, can you tell me how many we've had on short-term rentals?
You don't know.
We do that
Yeah.
now, but we might get called to play for a noise or something, and it's documented as a noise complaint under the noise ordinance versus a short-term rental. Might have been a short-term rental, and people renting it causing the noise, but you don't know that at the time.
See, that's kind of where I was headed with that as well. That would be in place this summer. That could be in place this summer. Even though, you know,
It can be a place in moments. It
Yeah.
doesn't take much to put that in.
so people may not realize, STR personnel might not realize that they've got an issue and the police get called. Now it becomes an educational thing to, okay, well, this is what's happening here, and they have an opportunity to correct it before they get into the next year's a license problem.
Right, and being, you know, it'd be the first summer with it, I think, and I like to weigh in on your suggestion, a soft rollout, I think would be a good idea. It gives us time to, one, build that RMS and the permit system in our program, the coordinator to get the proper forms and documentation that we need, and then as it's playing along, if we need to tweak things here or there, we can do that as we start dealing with them.
Thank you.
Yep.
That answers that. Appreciate it. Okay. You done?
I just really think that, like I say, I can see both sides, as we all can. But I think taking an aggressive stance from the onset of a short-term rental is what we need to do to be able to gather the data that's needed. I almost question getting off onto something different, the number of which we start with.
That's a second.
We already know that we're under what there is out there. Anyway.
Can I?
No, it's a good segue to the discussion.
Yeah.
I think I'm clearly hearing that the board wishes to leave in language that would provide that date
Correct.
for the look, and with the intent of no commercial in a residential ultimately.
Correct.
This particular board, a board in the future or a board with further information may, I guess, deem to do something different, but going into it, you know, it's a.
We don't have any data to look at. We have.
I
to
can
be
remember the
strict.
previous supervisor asking me about short-term rentals, Dave Beauty. And I said to him, you know, geez, Dave, I would wait until we hear what the courts have to say about whose responsibility is this. Still rather befuddled the state didn't do anything with it, with lost revenue and whatever, that they don't usually miss many opportunities for revenue. And then to have that go to court and say, yeah, it is deemed to be commercial. And so That came down obviously in December of 23. I took office in April of 24 on an appointment. And so that is where, that came down at, and where we say timing, if you will, of the discussion. Meanwhile, over the last 15 years, I think most people will say, I'm not sure how many STR owners there are out here, but how long you've been doing it. Short of what I call the on-site guest house where you're managing and somebody's in the guest house. Yeah, I think it's been, 15 years of unfettered growth or access and whatever. And so it's akin to shutting the gate after the horses got out. And if you just shut the gate and let everybody die out there overnight, I don't think that's appropriate. And this seems to be a more prudent approach to, shall we say, make a statement. But ultimately, I think the proof becomes in the pudding. I keep hearing those that do short-term rentals tell me there's not a problem. This is not a problem. Show me the data. It's not a problem. And as one lady I talked to after the meeting, very nice, had indicated that, you got to get more data. Well, you're not going to find data. Central Dispatch doesn't parse out data for short-term rentals. And they're the call center, if you will. They're the police department, never their responsibility. Nobody was their responsibility. And in fact, your zoning ordinance was pretty, they're written permissive by basis or by design, but that didn't mean it was ever legal. It just happened. So ultimately, you don't have, and if this board does something like this, at least there might be a opportunity to gather that data, and not just by neighbors calling on neighbors. The police department is out there; they can hear something going by or whatever, or otherwise, or whatever might happen. They do that now with some of the ordinance pieces that they have. But at the end of the day, maybe you'll have some kind of data to parse out. But to let it go and do nothing with it or put in some kind of a permit process seems to be neglect for me. It would be neglect. That's just my thought process. And, we're waiting for commercial, and then for the court ruled it's commercial. So now this is what you're left with on that basis. On the extraneous side of it, every community around says they're lacking housing. Every the meetings that I attend in our county lacking housing. Well, if they're all the extraneous housing, or I shouldn't say all, but if a lot of extraneous housing is picked up, that means you don't have residents or those that might live or work in the area. And in a job climate, should it return back to some pre-inflation amount? I don't know. I drive to Grayling. They're building stuff all over the place. Roscommon Village is trying to trying to discuss having built some more housing pieces. And that's all I keep hearing is about lack of housing. And so that kind of rings to me as well. And I've had other people to say, hey, let me shoot you an ordinance from another town or something. Well, the town is not Higgins Lake. The characteristics are slightly different than Higgins Lake when you look at it. So it's not apples to apples. So that's my thoughts on it, gang, with that. And so what I think I'm hearing is that we would intend on the next version of this to leave it in.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
The sunset?
Yes.
You're talking? Yep.
Okay.
I have
Now-
a question when you're done with this part.
Okay, go ahead.
I don't know that it applies to this particular.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to kind of work off some logical things that I've been dying to get to, because people always are asking. And sure, it's going to be in the policy version of this, but I can't think of a better day in front of the public to ask this question. What is the number of permits? Because we all agreed, we said we were gonna. What is the number that we would intend to put in a policy? And as a first draft of our policy for this. Now, Jim, you said cap the number of license at 80, which is 2% of those dwellings, if you will.
I'm not married to that. I just was a
Well,
number we've talked about, but
That's a number. I heard very early on in this and researched quite a bit, and the one that rung me was 2.5% of our properties, which was 87, I think, from Julie's tally, if you will. I personally can fall anywhere in there. I am not for, 150 trying to get out of the gate with. And Yeah, and I don't want to be too restrictive on the basis of we're intending to evaluate, and you can evaluate down to the point where the evaluation means nothing.
My question probably does go here.
Okay, go ahead.
So,
Go ahead.
I think. Sorry if it doesn't.
Go ahead.
So in my mind, I'm thinking we're right now, the draft is somebody wants to do a short-term renter, they have to have permission from their neighbors within 100 feet dwelling to dwelling. My side of the lake, which by the way, for Zoom land, I do not own a place on the lake, no matter what Facebook says. I do manage my sister's, which is our family home. I do manage it, and I am all about having this short-term rental, something happening in the best way. I am not, what's that word? I'm not slighted. I'm for my community. I'm not for my personal needs. Okay. I'm a fair voter, whatever. Anyhow, I am thinking that we're going to get so many letters from the people that are having these major problems with these short-term rentals next door, that so when they send a letter saying, no, I do not want a short-term rental, or them to continue or whatever, does that mean they automatically will not get a permit?
Could I maybe
Yeah.
clarify something?
Good.
And correct me if I'm wrong on this. The way this ordinance is written, if you're on a public road, you don't need permission from your neighbors,
Okay.
period. You need to notify your neighbors. If you're on a private road, private, and I'll pick on her, you're on Kennedy Trail, that's a private road, right? That's a private road. An STR on that private road would require permission from the surrounding neighbors.
Okay.
That's the only time you'd have to have permission from your neighbor.
That is confusing in the draft.
But that's
what it means
correct
though?
me if I'm wrong, but
Might be-
that's the way it's written. So
Okay.
if you are on a public road,
Yep.
you have notification requirements to your neighbors so that they know who to call if there's a problem. But if you're on a private road, you cannot have an STR unless your neighbors approve it.
So I have,
Okay, so if you just said if you're on a public road, you cannot have an STR if your neighbor.
No,
No,
if
just
you're on a
private,
public
private.
road,
Oh,
you can get it, you
Right.
can apply and get a license
Yep.
without neighbors' permission. You don't need their permission. You have to just
Public road.
notify.
Okay.
If you're on a private road, you will not get a license unless your contiguous neighbors or whatever the footage is, approve it.
Okay, but only on private roads. Okay.
So like in your case, because I'm familiar with that one, and I don't know who's all back in there, but I just know that there's an issue with some in there. They would have to get permission from whoever their neighbors are to get a license. If they don't get permission, they're not getting a license.
All right.
That's the way this is written.
All right.
so does length of the private road have any bearing?
If they're both on it, I guess it doesn't really matter.
So length of the private road does not matter. Permission needs to be granted by everybody.
I don't see why it would be pertinent.
I think that's what we're basing it on.
In the discussion.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
asking, isn't that what we're basing it on? The fact that it's private?
Private, it's not a public road,
Public
therefore,
road. Now, if they have neighbors that don't wanna, want them to participate in it because of how much traveling there's gonna be on their road and damage, maybe they can work something out to, or whatever. They need to work it out amongst
well,
themselves at
that,
that
and,
point.
and we had a case not too long ago, Brian had me in his office, private road, the lady had talked to me, trying to get
Remember,
everybody work together on getting it maintained, and
yeah,
they can't get everybody on the same boat, but we have nothing to do with that, and
exactly.
so that's what the reason on this, the way this is worded is that, and I'll tell you the other thing too, because this has come up. If it's deed restricted on your property, we're not going to grant a license and override your deed restriction. So if your property is deed restricted and it says, hey, you're not supposed to have commercial activity or an STR or whatever.
My proof of deed.
Yeah,
And
if
proof of
if you
deed,
got deed restriction on your property, you're not getting.
And that's why
a
we're asking
license.
for the deed.
So so I don't know where your sister's place is, or I'm not familiar with it, but if it's on a public road, it won't need a permission from the neighbors to get the
Oh.
license.
Because when you read that D, on page 7,
Page
Or-
what?
7,
Okay.
D, letter, and it says immediate neighbors and all the property owners within 100 feet of the dwelling consent to the increased occupancy. Doesn't say anything private, public, or
Are you talking about, what'd you say?
page
D?
7. No, I'm not on the newly done one.
Section 6 regulations,
Newly done one.
D,
It's not on the
I
newly
know,
done.
I said,
page 7.
I don't know. None of us are on the old one.
It is on this, it is on the new one, the one that just the attorney changes. It's on.
Talking about D is in dog.
D as in dog.
Well, that's talking about if,
No, here,
if you,
actually, here is,
This
D as in
one,
dog,
D
number
is
4.
one.
well, okay, that's a different circumstance. If you're only allowed, the way this is written, you get 12 people in your home to rent it. If you want to expand that beyond that, then you do. It doesn't matter whether you're private or public road. You need to get approval from your neighbors to increase the number of 12. That's what that is.
Let's leave blank. Okay, I get it now. Thank you.
Brian, I got something really important that's really bothering me.
Yeah, that coffee. Oh.
Oh my gosh, thank you, Jim.
Thanks, Jim.
I thought you were coming to protect me.
Appreciate it. Yeah, thank you.
And some pre-governance.
All right. All right. Anything else on your two sides of the table there, ladies?
Were we still talking about numbers of,
That's where I want to go.
Well, just to clarify, his number of 80 isn't 2%. It's closer to 2.5.
Close. 87, I believe, is 2.5. But
Yeah.
from the first thing
So
you've shown to me.
2% of the 3,400 would only,
Be about 86.
68.
Oh, 2.5 was the number.
So
that-
you're closer to 2.5. You're
Yeah.
pretty close to,
and how many
then-
have
Well,
you
that
guys
would have been
identified?
policy.
and 2.5 was just for point of clarification. MSU did a study
correct.
and came up with what they recommended. There's nothing
Yeah,
written
no,
in
no.
stone on that. It's just if you got more than that, they think that that's a proliferation. If you get, if you're less of that, it's probably better, but it's
Based
not.
on the fact that we already know that we have a problem and we're taking the approach of a sunset date, what would be the difference of allowing anybody who qualified for one to let them qualify? How are you gonna, right now, you've identified how many already? And
And 44 was the initial number
Every
by the
township.
planning commission.
So I don't know what I think there.
Well, this is the time to say it.
I think if
This
there
is the
really
only-
are that many,
The 144?
I don't know, there,
Well,
there,
if there's that.
I know
many-
there's 100. I know there's at least 100.
Of those that are out there, it'd be my guess that there are people that are gonna go, okay, I've had enough, you know. I don't think anybody else is gonna wanna get in that isn't already in an STR. Those that are in it are going, I'm not interested anymore and I'm moving on. And if that number was 140 some, it's really more like.
Oh, I can't even say that out loud, but even, I'm just concerned with the amount that we give, and then my mind goes to, well, does it really matter if we're gonna end it, if we have an end date? I don't know.
Well, we got to know pretty soon.
I'm fine with whatever. That's just food for thought. I
I'm fine with it.
just think we're gonna leave a lot of them out there without the ability to get a
Permit.
permit.
That number would be established via policy,
Yes,
Yeah.
not by ordinance.
that's correct.
And therefore it would have, I suppose, some flexibility.
I know that like Markey set theirs at, I think 40, and then they moved it up to 50.
I guess
Recently.
if
And
we
that's,
start
I'm
low,
not saying that
Yeah,
I'd do that. I'm just saying that that is a possibility. And I agree with Jim. Barry, my deputy, has, compiled a list and we've been working on it. There's over 100 on there. I suspect there's probably 40 more I don't know about, because They may not be advertising on the same platforms. But as Jim said, number one, and we're going to get to this in here about PREs because that is going to relieve some of that. And those that are private roads may not get their licenses. So that may take care of some of that. And, so I'm comfortable starting with 80. If the sunset's definite and your logic's not necessarily flawed, I want to make it clear that that's definite as far as this ordinance is. Subsequent board can always change whatever, but that's why I think we need to be clear on this, what the intent was, so that, because I'm going to go back to that same thing I said about zoning. I know some people are going to say, it's my property, I can do what I want, it's my right. But when you move commercial activity in the middle of a residential area that traditionally was quiet area and create commercial property, what about the rights of the people that are next to you? You've infringed on their rights. And so some of these things have been around forever, long before maybe I was alive, and I can understand, wanting to continue that resort. But those the proliferation's gotten so heavy now that you can't I don't know how to split that hair, but I'm just saying that it's a problem now. It's beyond that point of grandpa's used to take us there when we were kids. It's not the same as that anymore. You've got places that have literally went into a residential area, beautiful spot, and put a commercial business in the middle of it and changed the character of that by default and changed the zoning by default. And that's not what was intended in our zoning.
Right.
Maybe I'd propose we rounded it up, rounded the 2.5, my error on here, rounded the 2.5 to 3%, call it whatever that number is.
I'm not looking to add more. I'm just looking to have conversation about the fact that there are a lot more out there than what we're going to present for a number.
Certainly.
That's all.
Certainly.
But like you say, the factors of what may change.
I think the
too.
factors within this
Or the
ordinance is
quality
going
of
to
the-
narrow that down. So
I do too. I think when it maxes out, when you get, everybody is in that 2 months, gets their application in the A or nay. I don't, based on whatever I've seen, I just don't think it's going to be that big of a number.
Well, we're going to need to know that number of license folks, because
Yeah.
if we're going to,
Well,
if we're going to look at your plan it out, Jim, we're looking at April 1 to July 1.
Yep.
And the PD, the short-term rental coordinator, is going to know whether, got to know what the stop point is in there.
so I just changed my proposal to 3%.
3%
Open
of-
discussion.
3% of dwellings. What's the?
3% of the, was it the,
that puts
Residences?
it over 100.
I think that's too much.
okay,
I'm
the
fine-
discussion is 2.5%. That's what's been,
I'll do it.
that's,
I'm
Doing
fine
it.
with that. Just wanted to speak to the fact that we
Okay.
have a lot more than that we know of.
2.5 is it?
Hmm?
Or do we have to vote? We have to.
Are we doing an 80?
no votes.
I'm good with 80.
I'm good
Okay.
I'm
with
fine with 80. I, again, wanted
So
to just.
as
Me
the
too.
policy, as it looks to be developed, the initial I'm hearing with everybody is 80, correct?
I can
Yes.
deal with that.
Now, okay. Dealt with two of the issues for sure, but so far. Was there anything, back to the, was there anything ends? And we were at section 4 after the regulations, so we're section 5 application. Jim so noted about your thought processes in here, I guess, is the board interested in Jim's thoughts here, and then the mission would be to somehow get that melded back into the application for short-term language as it fits in. Because there's several items in here that are going to have to be
Yep.
melded and fit back into what would be a draft 5.
Right. That's why I threw the concept out for us to talk about and then figure out how it goes back in the ordinance appropriately.
I don't think we're gonna be able to hammer out the exact.
No, we
wording
wont.
today.
Not today.
If
We
we can
won't.
get the
This is gonna
concepts,
be,
like you said.
but we can get together, Jim, I guess, and try and
Yes, Yeah.
piecemeal. So, I'm just gonna make a note for, since we're here more, together, you and I can get together and try and get the language, I guess, kind of melded there on that. C, an issuance or denial. Currently it provides for, standards and regulations, the appropriate fees been paid, and if there are available licenses, the designated township official, we had somebody challenge that language, at the last meeting. I guess we can run that by,
No, it was the
No, it was-
agent one. It was.
excuse me, agent, local agent. I want to make sure that our council,
Yep.
who was listening in, so he knew what someone had said. So, we'll, before the final comes out to vote on, that'll be addressed.
well, isn't this,
Four-
this 14-day thing
That is-
contrary to what Jim's initial application is?
Well, that's what I'm wondering. That's why I'm here. Within 14 days of receipt during normal business hours, that would have to be struck in here, and some of that language would have to meld itself.
There's no additional available licenses that whole language in that whole C should
Yep.
be reviewed.
Yeah.
Total number of licenses, I think we answered our question for the policy, but that's general language in it. Anybody have, I know that on section 4, you guys had alluded to 60 days, license holder may
Yeah.
renew within 60 days.
Yes,
Are we comfortable with that potential change?
yes.
Okay.
I think it relieves us too,
Absolutely.
instead of having.
That's what I've.
Absolutely.
For, I mean, you run so fast on this, you can really hurt yourself here and the community, so. So principal residence exemption discussion.
So I was very confused by this one,
Yeah, well, it was poor language before.
but I still was confused with the rewrite.
Okay,
But then I had it explained to me.
Well, maybe,
speak to it.
oh, okay,
Speak to it
this is how,
in public.
how I look at it. If you have a principal residence and you want, let's say you want to subsidize your some income to pay your taxes. I've heard that several times brought up. If it's your PRE and you want to rent out your house while you're there, or then you don't need a license. You do it, it's yours, do what you want, that's yours. As long as
They
you're
have to
not,
be there?
huh?
Does the owner, when you say it like that, does the owner have to stay?
The way it's worded right now, the owner's supposed to be there.
Okay. That's one.
So I know there's probably some non-conforming properties around the lake where some people have, maybe before the zoning was put in, there's 2 houses or a guest house or, I guess spare bedroom, I don't know, but if they want to rent that out, it's not rising to the level of commercial activity. They're there.
Right.
They're not advertising. I'm not interested in chasing them down. If
They
they're,
wouldn't allow something.
if they're a problem with their neighbor, then that's
Their problem.
now a police department issue. But as far as the ordinance, the ordinance in my mind, when this was brought to me, it was the issue of the proliferation of commercial activity being
Yeah.
brought into
Yeah.
residential areas that wasn't already there. These little mom and pops things that have been going on. I'm not so concerned about chasing that down. It's the newer activity
Right.
that's been really more problematic. So that's the way it's worded. Okay, so the intent, at least Brian, you were there with Scott Hess.
Yes.
That's how I interpret
That's
that.
how
Okay, to be, okay, so it is, what is confusing is the way it reads, provided the owner occupies the residence. Well, of course they occupy it because they have a principal residency exemption. So
On-site manager?
they don't have to be in the house.
Well, it says during any rental period.
That's what I'm reading. That's
Oh,
what I'm
that's
reading.
what you're questioning?
I
I'm
think the
saying.
idea behind that is, I probably my fault because I brought it up, is what if I don't want people to go out and try to falsify PREs to be able to get through this without a license and then start a STR in essence without having to get a license because they went and got a improper PRE. And so I don't want to create a problem with the assessor. I think that's why Scott put the word in there, because I didn't originally put that in there. Now,
Okay.
maybe that's something we can talk to
I
Scott
think it's
about,
very blurred as far as understanding.
but I will tell you from my perspective, and this is just me, I'm not interested if you wanted to rent your house for 2 weeks while you were gone, even to supplement
What
your,
about if I wanted to do it for 3 months?
Long-term rental, more than 30 days.
No, just during 3 months in the summer, I'm gonna rent it out,
Long-term rental.
week at a time.
I think that falls under a different ordinance, but.
You just want to do that.
I'm
But
just trying to,
the point is that
you're right, I
those
agree with
people
you.
that
I
have-
agree, that's not
that are
what we're going
there-
after.
they're there then, and they're renting,
I just think that shouldn't say, in the residence, occupies the residence.
well, I think
They
there's,
occupy the residence or they wouldn't have a PRE. Right?
Yeah.
well, I think it means they want them there while you're renting it out. It was like if you're renting
Well,
out part of your
It
home,
does, yeah.
not vacating it.
But is that is that always the case with people who have principal residencies? No, I mean, I don't think it should be there.
I think if you don't put it in there.
I understand our
eventually
attorney
have a-
worded it that way.
Oh, you,
Well, I
It's still
kind of see what you're
confusing.
saying. It sounds a little bit redundant, but at the same time, it clarifies what Scott was after to me, you can't claim it's a personal residence and then, and rent it out only to be gone all the
Well,
time. I
yes,
think that's,
the IRS says you can. You actually can
what's that?
we're not.
rent your principal
So do
residency
we
out.
need to look at some on-site
That's
language?
not
That's
the,
their rules. That's
that's
our-
IRS. This
I
has got
just
to do with
said
whether,
that to him. I understand.
yeah.
I think it's good like it is.
I'll let it go.
Or-
I just think it's gonna cause some questions.
Or alt language, some alternative language for on-site management as well. To be inclusive of it,
What's say,
Site management.
to on-site management, some inclusive.
I don't think you want to
Or,
start classifying it as a commercial activity. That's the point.
yeah, it's true. Yeah. I get
Kind of
it.
like charging your guests.
Based on PREs or.
Because they're a guest in your.
Meant to be
They're paying you money.
based on PRE.
I'm just saying, if you've got somebody comes and stays during the summer and they
You're
pay
right,
you,
it's not who we're going after.
it's not the ones I'm looking.
I'm not going after anybody.
They don't rise to
I'm
that.
Trying to, you know what I mean.
Ooh,
The problem.
Empty.
The
to write-
concern, it's not
empty.
where the concern lies.
Okay. I certainly can ask the question. That's fine.
Well, I think we need to make sure everybody's,
That it's
on the
proper
same-
to what Scott or what the legal would be, because now you're bringing the legal piece in.
well,
Currently, we
originally,
haven't brought legal piece. We had the legal review. We got the comfortability by our attorney that would represent us if anything. And I just want to make sure that we don't, when we change things, you don't change the legality piece of it.
well, in the original draft, this was A2, I think it was,
Yeah,
when
PRE
we
in there.
changed it, we did put in there language about principal residence being able to be utilized. When it went to the attorney, he changed it, just said PREs
Excluded.
are exempt from this ordinance or not.
Excluded is.
Included.
He used.
So
what
he
the hell
did,
does that
he
mean?
took that clarification, because I literally had wording
But
in
they're
there
not.
that said,
We're making them excluded by choice. Right? I mean, that's
gonna
what
double
we're
check
we're
this.
doing that. We're,
Well,
it's
the
not a law that they're
like,
excluded.
and I'm just saying, if you look at the last draft,
Mhm.
he had changed what I put in there to a very simple statement that said, well, properties with the PRE granted or owner occupier are not eligible for a license. That's all he put in there. So it left it without, well, what does that mean?
Mhm.
So when we went back to Scott after that, he changed it to this. Okay, because that the intent was when we said this was that we don't, if you want to rent out a room in your house or something, then so be it. As long as it's your principal residence, you're not
I just,
running it like an STR.
here's what I know about principal residency exemptions. I work for the election piece. And it's a very monitored. There are PREs out there that there shouldn't be.
That's why I don't want to create some abuse situation here. I don't want to open this up, to create some sort of an abuse, but you can only allow one PRE in this state. So and they monitor that, because if your name's on another piece of property, the state of Michigan puts that together and they'll go back a year later and come after you. So I'm comfortable with it the way it is,
Okay.
but
You guys are estimate comfortable with it at
We're-
this point?
We're in agreement I just don't like the verbiage of how it's written, and that's fine. I can live with that. If you think that that
we're going to
explains
end up
it,
with the attorney. So
yeah, and if
Sure.
you think that that gives enough
got it noted.
clarification,
I've got it noted. For potential odd language or double check that language, to see why he selected that
mhm.
language. All right, regulations number 6. Anything board?
Well, I had in D,
Number what?
6D. No short-term rentals shall be occupied by more than 12 occupants. Oh, I
There.
should double check here, I guess.
Thoughts?
Unless it says unless the premises have the requisite number of bedrooms. I propose scratching that unless it has the requisite number of bedrooms, just leave it at 12.
But if you have a 6-bedroom,
What if you got 10 bedrooms? Do you really get 24 people? I say leave it at 12. That's the proposal. Leave it at 12.
I have no feelings.
well, I think that the whole purpose in this is that it is 12, unless you have the
Larger,
extra bedrooms and you meet all these 5 requirements.
Right.
So if your neighbors say no, you're done. It stops it right there.
Okay.
Because I mean, it says it right in there that
Well, I see that it says that you need to meet the rest of the requirements. My only thought when I proposed it was that 12 is enough, but if 24 is okay, because you meet all the requirements, the parking
So if
and
I'm
everything, then
So if I'm
maybe
given,
that covers itself.
if I'm given the permit, how do I know how many bedrooms the house has? If I'm given the permit to approve, disapprove,
because they
Do I know?
do a map.
Floor plan.
They have-
What's that?
Yeah.
well, they're gonna have
in
to,
a map.
Or
they have
plan
to
is
submit
good.
that with their
Yeah,
application, but
their
if they're
applications.
asking
See
for
for their project.
occupancy over the 12, whoever's vetting those permits would then say, okay, you have to meet
Yeah.
these requirements.
Right.
And you're gonna need a written
then I'm,
statement from all your
Okay.
immediate neighbors saying that they have no problem with you increasing it above 12, which good luck with that.
that's why I'm, good luck with that.
The verbiage that's in there, the new one was that was in the old one.
Unless
And
premises
that's
have the
bold
requisite-
there is the key. And the owner provides the township with the documentation demonstrating to the,
Yeah, and it is bold.
everybody okay with that? I guess
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
okay with it if everybody else is, but I don't see where you need to have more than 12, but if that's controlled in the ordinance by the rest of that language, then okay,
It would be,
okay.
here so. You good?
Yep.
Good.
All right, I got one
Under regulation?
under regulations.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm just bringing it out.
Yep.
Number 8, well, I don't know if it changed on here. Number 18 under B.
B.
And on the new, I'm on my old one.
Oh.
I want an explanation as to why we feel we have to get a copy of the Michigan sales use tax license. I kind of feel that's a little bit of an overreach, only because that's on the individual, what they do and how they do it for their tax purposes. I look at that as a obligation that they have as an individual
What she's talking.
and not as a
Trying to find it, guys.
way to get their license.
Page 5 you're on?
I've got my old one, Marcy, so
The section,
what is it in now? I don't know, I got it wrong.
I just saw it.
Old 5, old 5. Anyways,
I got
just-
it,
I'm
number 18,
questioning
page 5.
that that's not an overreach, and I use the example, and you guys tell me if I'm wrong, of we issue W-2s to people. We don't make sure they file their taxes. That's not our place to do that. I don't understand the need for that. That's what I'm saying.
We're not asking for them to show us that they actually filed or paid their use
But-
tax, but if you don't have a Michigan license, you're not legitimate, period. That's what they're saying. That's what.
And I don't know this. Do you think that everybody out there right now who's doing short-term rentals has a license?
They either have a license, or the other option that some of these people here might have is if you're using a platform like VRBO or Airbnb, you're not required to have a license. You'd have an agreement with them and they would
Okay.
collect the use tax there. But when you collect on this, you have to pay use tax. And all we're asking for is proof that you actually have a license to make you legitimate. It's not,
Okay,
that's what
Like me
that's the
not
thought
understanding
behind this when we,
okay.
But if you don't have that, then the permit's not issued?
correct. But if you don't, you may not, and I had a discussion with somebody that said, well, I don't have a license because I use a Airbnb platform and
But they have a contract.
yeah,
with
so
it
they'd have a
that
contract.
Covers all the rest of the
Basically
stuff.
shows it's legitimate.
Yeah.
You want to
Yeah.
make sure that it's not,
I just need
that's
to
all.
understand
I mean,
that.
is it a make it or break it thing? Probably not. But
So a copy of Michigan sales/use tax license / contract.
Or
you
the
may want to
VRBO.
change it or
Yeah.
contract with third party,
Or third-party contract?
third party contract, because that is, and I didn't realize this till I talked to
Yeah.
this lady is just well, they don't make me have to have a license because I use
Okay, that makes sense.
Airbnb.
Okay.
So if we added in there or third-party contract, i.e. Airbnb, VRBO, as an example,
Yeah.
you comfortable with that? We did that.
I'd feel better about it.
Mary Jo,
To word it like what?
To add the VRBO
on number
contract.
18.
If
off
you
of
don't
her-
have
For her concerns.
stated
Okay,
use license.
yeah.
Okay, any other regulation?
yes,
Jim?
number 19.
Yes.
I proposed adding the language, it says septic and well status from the center. Indicating the number of bedrooms, and septic systems servicing the short-term rental premises was designed to accommodate. I'd like to add, additionally, a short-term rental application must have on file with the Central Michigan District Health Department a current copy of their septic and well inspection report. At such time, the Gerrish Township septic ordinance becomes in effect.
Yeah.
Any short-term rental must comply with all aspects of the ordinance at that time.
We talked about that. I know you and I individually talked about that, covering what if and where. Anybody opposed to adding that in on 19?
Nope.
Since our
But
subject-
Basically, what you're saying though is in that last paragraph is that we're asking to go get this then. So what you're gonna have on, if you don't have it, you're gonna get this report. That's basically that report we're asking for.
Yeah.
So-
The report, a septic and well inspection report, which they will know what that is.
It's not increasing what we're asking for the application. It's just,
Just needs to be on file with the health
Yeah.
department.
yeah.
You guys okay with that thought process?
Yeah.
Okay. We did the, where was I at? Backfast regulation.
Hmm.
Local
Yes.
agent regulation,
What number are we on?
7.
Of
7. But he did-
section 7?
Yeah, you good with that? Local agent regulations. That has to do with representatives that are available, basically. We say 60 minutes. Yeah, is that, I mean, I'm sure that came from other people, sorry, you know, I mean. Is that what we want to say, 60 minutes? What do we want to?
It's,
We were talking.
we were just talking about that this morning, and only in Michigan do you equate mileage in minutes. The
Yeah.
60 minutes is 60 miles is how most of us think, but yeah, you could put miles in there if you wanted to.
Instead of minutes,
Is that,
asking, is that what we're doing? You want miles or minutes?
I don't know. I'm presuming this minutes came from the multitudes of other.
well, put it in
Ordinances
perspective. If
packed
you were
together.
Detroit or
Yeah, you
Ann Arbor or something like that, 60 minutes could be 10 miles.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
You know, so it depends on here, we equate 60 minutes to 60 miles.
But 60 minutes, that it's referencing how quickly you would want
Right.
somebody to be available to be there
Right,
within a 60-minute time frame.
yeah.
I like minutes.
I'm good with minutes. It doesn't bother.
It should be there within an hour.
Steve, are you good with your folks hanging out for an hour with somebody coming?
Yeah. Waiting for a ride. And last time.
Right. Yeah. Could you leave and come back?
Section D, or I mean, section 8?
Have anything there?
Yeah, it's kind of funny to me. We're going to request a 24-hour telephone number, yet we don't request telephone numbers of anybody on tax rolls, but I get it. Anybody? 8,
I'm fine with it.
9? 9? Good. Safety requirements.
Problems.
10, penalties.
Just a clarification, the police powers ordinance has predetermined
Yes.
civil fines.
Correct.
So I think that came up with conversation somebody I had.
Well, various
Yes.
ordinances across the year where it would show what it would have been at the given time.
That's what.
Civil infraction with ordinances or whatever, ultimately the court would mete out the penalties, if you will. To give you an example, the Public Act 56 tickets, actually the district court judge some time ago relegated that to the duty of the magistrate and said it would be $250, which was a little bit, I think, might have been a little tweak from what it's up to kind of thing. So the 500 for each violation, but that's where that language comes from, is from the legal pieces. It wasn't something any board member dreamed up. You guys okay with that?
I'm good with it.
It came from the attorney that way.
Yep,
Revocation,
yep.
again, we'll revisit that language designated township official. I think that might have been what the fellow was said the other night.
Oh,
I gotta look at. Last, he didn't.
What? It was
Yep,
Corey Fonseca.
designated local contact.
Yeah.
Okay. 12 is the severability, of course. 13 is an effective date. We know we have to visit this. We had April 1, 2026. What's the prevailing thoughts? I like the rollout concept. I do.
I like
We
the
can
rollout
build that
concept.
language in. Okay. I'm not looking to hook people immediately or anything on this at all, but when do you think we could reasonably be able to put this before all 5 of us for a vote?
If we're going to institute these changes, which it sounds like we are, we're still talking about having an April 1st application period, which would mean that I think you have to have the ordinance
30
in
days.
place or voted on before April 1st of 2026 to be consistent, at least in my mind.
Yes, sir.
So, and it's only January. I can't, if we may not get all of our policies hammered out, but to have this hammered out to get the
It
application
is for
going,
the process starting.
I think we could do that by April
So April
1st.
1st date is good.
Just gotta meld the language.
Yeah.
Well, it wouldn't become effective.
I was just gonna ask that.
The
thank
ordinance
you.
wouldn't become effective April 1st.
It would because
Yeah.
the application process would start then. The licenses won't be issued
There will be
until
no
8/27,
count
but
till
they,
2026 though,
the
right?
ordinance itself would be in place
You have to
on
get
the
it,
1st of April.
you'd have to get it
The ordinance.
enacted so that
Okay.
you've got some,
Okay. Yeah,
right
yeah, yeah.
to-
Okay, I'm with you.
Well, and
Again,
you're,
it's all verbiage we're talking.
well, and now that you're starting to get out into what I call the enforcement things,
Yeah.
which is something the PD will, you know, I mean, with anything and everything, there's a spirit, there's a letter, and that has to be treated with the greatest amount of kid gloves at this point to get things up so that you're not running too fast, but yet you still have to have an empowering statute to even ask for what you're asking for, in my opinion. I'm looking at you guys. We embarked on this back in June of last year, I think, when we first started
Yeah,
to talk about it. It certainly hasn't been
More
not
than a year
talked
ago.
about for, gosh, there's been several times that I know of with previous boards over the time, but
can we
They
meet the
just don't-
statutory requirements without
We gotta
the
have
publishing
days, I
and
think.
well, you have to,
Yes, we-
we have to publish it for 30 days.
30 days out.
Once we
So
put the
April
official
1st
seal, we have to publish it for 30 days and it doesn't become effective until after that.
so April 1st, if you wanted to go into effect, then that's March 1st
Yep.
has to be published.
Which means
That leaves
February's
us
meeting.
the month of February to get the rest of it
Yeah,
done.
because March 10th, I believe, is our.
We
annual
got
meeting.
everything in March. Yeah.
Yeah, we've got an
The big
annual
meetings in March.
budget
Yeah.
and our regular township board meeting in March
Because
10th.
the middle of January gives us 6 weeks to get this. What else statutorily is required?
Just the 30 days
Yeah.
on the putting in the paper. Once you have,
The ordinance language. and
we
it's been
agree, the five
approved.
of us,
then it
whether
goes-
it's 3-2,
yeah.
4-1, whatever it might. be.
Well, here's
If-
an alternative. If you said, I think we could do this. I think it's contingent on how fast the attorney can get it back out to us
Yeah.
and us look at it. But
Yeah.
I don't have great.
the only
confidence in
real
6 weeks.
There's
timeline.
not a lot of changes though
I mean,
either.
if you use everything that Jim proposed in here and change the application period to start instead of April 1st and pushed it into May or June and push back to July to
What about May to August?
September,
You got
you
flexibility.
still got plenty of time and before
What,
the 1st of January,
What ab-
the new license would start.
what about May to August? How about May 1st? To August and change number 5 of Jim's?
I have no problem with that.
That would give us time again.
So May 1st would become effective? Is that? what you're saying?
May, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
May to August on that rollout, on that piece. Okay. We had to repeal, which is normal language. So board members, any final comments before I open the floor on our public comment section?
I don't know if, my questions usually result from conversations or emails,
Everybody's does.
Yes, you're right. So the grandfathering in of the long-term, the people that have the little cabins, they got the main house and the 3 or 4. I don't even know how many there are around the lake. I don't know. I can only think of a couple myself, but that don't mean it's accurate. But do we want to do any kind of grandfathering for a generational, long-standing?
We wanted to do grandfathering, period. You would need to do this in the zoning ordinance.
Oh,
We, at the very beginning of this, okay, let's say you have 144 or 200. Those all become civil processes and you don't have enough money in your coffers, nor do you have enough time to ferret through grandfathering. That's why we went to the police powered
Okay.
version of this. Is because it doesn't recognize grandfathering as a defense,
Gotcha.
if you will. I mean,
Gotcha.
certainly somebody could decide they don't like it and take it to pour it off of this particular ordinance and try and run that up the flagpole. As with anything else, as I said before at the very beginning of this, when we talked about this, look, we can only look at what the courts tell us now. If there's other court cases in the future, that might change something, those are things that have to be monitored, just like anything else. But at the end of the day, Mary Jo, that was the very crux of the discussion of zoning ordinance versus police powered. That answer that?
It did, thank you.
Okay, very good. All right, any other board member comments? Before I open the floor?
We had board member comments at the end or not?
You have announcements at the end, but if you'd like to make comments, now's the time.
No, no, I'm good.
Okay, good. Anybody else? All right, very good. We'll open the session for public comment. You have public comment, feel free to raise your hand. We'll take it again. Well, I shouldn't say again. I would hope you would preface it by, I know a lot of faces out here in the audience, and I know what you've written to me. I know what you said to me over the course of time. And we have definitely done the due diligence of that. So I would just ask that it doesn't become redundant and we get into another 2-hour session of public comment. We haven't passed, obviously, as you can say, an ordinance here yet by any far stretch, but just wanted the opportunity today to be in front of you folks. So anybody in the audience? Yes, ma'am, come on up. I did get your,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mariah, thank you so much for meeting about this, very important to do. And I really respect the way that you're doing it, care and thought. I just have a couple questions and I have a comment. In section 5, section 5, letter D, number 7. It's a little unclear to me that if a license is not renewed, does that license go away? Or does that license go to somebody on a wait list?
in the new draft, I should say new, the
Yeah.
S is coming in, 7 doesn't exist any
Yeah,
longer.
we eliminated it because the goal is to get to that sunset
Right.
clause.
Right.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. And I understand that we just got the
Just
one
got
melded
updated.
that we knew we had mandatory language changes, even though here in the public before.
Okay, great. And then, sorry if this is
No, it's okay.
in here and I haven't seen it. Can you transfer a license?
No,
No.
Okay.
I'm concerned about the PRE because
Okay.
I have a PRE on the
Late.
and not ever
Gotten a clear answer as to what is allowed for me to rent my PRE if I were to ever want to. I've heard answers such as 2 weeks. I've heard unlimited. And that's just my personal experience. But my concern for this ordinance is that this ordinance will be subverted by people who own a home on Higgins Lake and a home downstate by flipping their PRE to their Higgins Lake home and then renting it out indefinitely. I think that is a valid
that's,
concern.
yeah,
And I do think we will see that happen if there is not a clear rule for PRE as far as short-term rentals.
Meeting suggestion.
And that
I think 2 weeks
that's
is a
the
great-
conversation we were just having. The way it's worded, you have to be there.
That's very
Where-
clear.
where, our,
So
You
if
have to
you're
be
gonna rent
on
out your,
premise.
you're gonna rent out the back room of your house or whatever, you're gonna be there. Or if you got a little cabin in the back, and you know, I know there's there are those that are out there,
That's why I think
but you'd be your home, your guest. You know, it's not like I'm gone for the summer and I'm
Okay.
gonna rent it out. That's
Yeah.
not gonna be allowed.
I think I'm great with that. I think that needs to be really clear to people because I think you're going to get a lot of people asking, well, what am I allowed to do as a PRE?
Mhm.
And if if the answer is, well, this rule doesn't apply, go have fun, then you're going to get a lot of people trying to switch. But if the rule is clearly written and communicated by this board that you have to be on site on property if you are to rent your PRE out, that's clear enough for me.
That's why I'm kind of thinking on-site management. It's better than these, I call it sidestepping words. It is what it is.
Well, and what you just
So,
said made that all make sense as to why that verbiage. Are you good with that verbiage that we do have in there then, as far as it being, the owner has? to
Yeah,
be
because
on
this
site?
ordinance isn't about PREs.
No.
So I don't expect
Yeah.
verbiage on what's allowed for PREs to be in this ordinance. I'm just saying it's been a little murky.
Yeah.
When
Well,
you
with
call
voting-
this phone number to this place that we're in and ask that question, it's not a clear answer. And so I just want this board to be really prepared for the sake of all of us who are trying to do this important work, that there is no loophole to run this kind of operation at a PRE.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Amanda, online?
Harry Nolan.
Who?
Hi, Carrie.
Carrie. Okay. Sorry. I thought you said Terry, but Carrie, you have the floor.
Hi, sorry about that.
Mhm.
Oh, I can't start it's disabled. I can't start my video, but I can speak. If you can hear me.
Sure, we can hear you.
One question I had was when the police chief was speaking and doing the separate codes for those who have STRs versus those who
Mhm.
don't. Where is that data being presented? Like when, how, are you looking at it again in a year? Are you looking at it never? Is it only if the board changes?
Well, if
As
I'm
one
not the one that
question-
made the comment, and I guess that would be determined by whatever board might be looking at this for the future. I just wanted to make sure that the ability was there to capture.
Okay, and then if they have that information, will they also be able to, and I guess this might be more for the police chief, to present the same comparable reports for those who are residents and not STRs? So you can look at a percentage.
Mm.
So you can say, 10% of our calls were STRs and 90% were residents on this same comparable violation type.
I would
Which
Are you talking
maybe
about like-
public
be able
intel-
to do that.
So like
Which
alcohol,
might be-
or other drugs? Is that what
right,
you're saying?
like
Yeah, that's
noise
available.
violations, drunk in public,
Yes,
camping when they're not supposed to, or
yes.
their properties not being kept up, all the different things that residents might be doing
Yes.
Yeah.
so that,
Do that now.
and again,
Yes.
is this something that people can bring or ask? I don't know how it works necessarily with your board.
They actually do that
I
now,
just don't get the
Carrie.
point of keeping the data if it's not going to be reviewed.
Carrie, you answer your question. All of those are something that it's a report that's regularly and readily available at the police department through Freedom of Information Act, and they can run that for anybody at the given time.
Okay. I'm just wondering, as far as for the board, why? Like what it's never going to be looked at unless somebody who brings it up.
I strongly think someone's probably going to look at it at that date. That is in the ordinance. That would be certainly a hope, I would say, that someone might look at it again. I can't guarantee when someone may or may not look at it. I won't be here.
As it's written, there's a sunset.
That's correct.
Period.
We have no data to determine anything other than there needs to be a sunset date. I think what you're getting at is we are going to start to collect data to separate the short-term rental piece. Is anybody going to look at it? Yeah, we'll look at it, but you have to accumulate the data first. And does that mean that the sunset date will change? We don't know that. Don't want to put that into anybody's mind that it might change and then not plan accordingly though. So this is where our starting point is. Does that make sense?
I understand what you're saying. I'm just saying, is there a date to look at it?
No.
Otherwise, the
No.
next board might not even know it exists.
Then they shouldn't be coming in.
Okay. That was the question that I had.
Thank you. Another one there?
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm not seeing a hand raised. Oh, okay, I guess. And yes, I'd like to bounce back and forth. So, let's start right and we'll move that way. Young lady in the front.
88 on Kennedy Trail. So my question is just particular to the private road situation that you all discussed earlier. Thank you for your kind attention to all of this. It's so important to us and you've done a great job. If you could consider, please, instead of having the private road all in compliance, if there could be a percentage of them. So say we have 24 and 4 end up being STEs, we will all never agree. It would only be if one STE existed. So if you could just take a percentage of the entire residents on the private road rather than 100%.
Do you have a stated percentage that you had in mind?
Well, no, not exactly, but I just thought if everybody had to comply, that would be way too difficult to, if there's
Preponderance would
first,
be 51% if you used a preponderance,
See,
if you did.
I think the purpose behind that is that the people that are contiguous to them would have to approve it. So it's, if you're down the road, it's not everybody on that road. I think the way this is written, that everybody on that road doesn't have to approve that STR. The immediate neighbor does.
well, that's what we were hoping, but it confused me. So if that's the way it is, then that's the way everybody will understand it.
I believe that's the
Right.
way it's written.
I
here.
go to our neighbor, our immediate neighbor and say, we don't agree. And he'll say, well, the whole road has to comply.
No.
Good. All right.
Thank
Thanks
you for your
again.
thoughts.
Thank you very much.
Zoom. Ashley, you have the floor. Ashley Pratt, you
Can
have
you
the
hear me,
floor.
guys?
Yep,
Sorry.
we do. You have the
Okay.
floor, ma'am.
Awesome. I do have a question, and this might be something I run through my attorney because I have hired one for a separate reason with this. But what makes a long-term rental versus a short-term rental okay? How is a long-term rental not considered commercial activity? And the fact that, like, the way I suppose I define it, and maybe this is where it's been defined in the court of law, but to me, a commercial activity is a trade of any goods or services for, a fee for a set dollar amount.
Sure.
So how do you not, or how do you allow long-term rentals in like the R1 districts or anything, but then you don't allow a short-term rental?
It's a great question.
Along with any of the other, like if you work from home from an office or if you sell wood, I see a lot of like little pop-up places where you can buy a bundle of wood. How are those businesses being allowed within the same districts, but then a short-term rental is being, ostracized in all of this? Um, Also, when it comes to the occupancy of 12, I personally had an issue with one of the guests staying in my house. I think it was in the month of September. But Airbnb and allows, or they do not classify infants on their occupancy level. So mine is set to 12 personally. That's what my house can hold based off of having it 4 bedrooms, two people per bedroom plus
Sure.
2, I think it is, or whatever it ends up being, plus 4, I think. But they had a couple infants that put them up over my number, and I actually kicked them out and made them leave for that night. But I just wanted to point that out, that the Airbnb websites and things like that do not include infants in that occupancy number, and I was curious how you guys were going to break that down, adult versus a child versus an infant.
It's a good question. I
So
don't have any answer for you on what makes long-term non-commercial, if you will, there.
30 days.
30 days by law, and the innkeeper law, or that what everybody keeps operating off of, a short term is 1 to 29 days. That's the, if you want to know what those things are, but it doesn't, none of them specify commercial versus not commercial that I'm aware of, but that doesn't,
Yeah,
doesn't exist. I'm not an attorney.
Yep, I do. I obviously comprehend the difference of a long-term versus
Yep.
short-term rental based on the number of days you allow somebody
Yeah.
to stay there.
Right.
But the fact that you're able to rent out your house for money, I believe makes a long-term rental also commercial. I mean, that would, to me, would be what the
Great.
word commercial means.
That'd be great. That'd be great conversation with an attorney for sure.
Yep, I've already emailed my attorney from this, and I think he's actually watching possibly. So there was that, and then the last thing I will is I've said it before, but I do want to know how you guys are going to verify the accuracy of a complaint. Is it only funneled through like the police department, or is this something that like if you know, my neighbor calls you guys and says, "Oh my goodness, Haven on Higgins was loud last night and they did this and they did that, but they never called the police." Is that a valid complaint?
No.
No. Okay, good to know.
Not in my eyes. I'm sorry, I answered that.
Listen,
Those are
in the enforcement realm, that happens kind of every day.
Okay.
Just with short-term rentals, you have to determine in law enforcement, I shouldn't, you're the chief. I'm the old chief.
I say I can't hear him.
Yep, I'm bringing him to the podium.
Yeah, I couldn't hear him through his speech earlier either. It was cutting his mic out. So
Yeah, normally, I mean, we receive calls several different ways, whether it's at the office, through dispatch, or if somebody calls here to the township hall, whoever takes that call usually will forward that complaint to us and then we'll investigate it or look into it.
okay. The only reason I say this specifically is one of my neighbors is not very happy that we are a short-term rental. There's no secret to that. And in the lawsuit that I have right now going against him, he has stated that my guests have been loud and all of these other things, which are completely false. I have a monitoring system on it. I have multiple ring cameras that cover every square inch of my property.
Yep.
And also the cops have never been called to my house for any type of noise complaints or anything like that. So I obviously have the evidence to disprove him in there, but I was just curious,
Yep.
you know, what your guys' route was going to be, because I don't want to be determined as a bad rental if it's just a disgruntled neighbor that doesn't like that I'm able to be there.
Well, and we do document, you know, the calls with the report, and if we're called out to something and it's unfounded, we can document it as unfounded, which means it's not occurring.
Okay.
In a legal term basis in law enforcement, it's called totality of the circumstances.
Got it. Yeah, like filing
Okay.
a false police report and things like that. Okay. All right. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Ash.
My comments. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. In the room. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name's Duncan Lawrence, and
Duncan.
Pinewoods Association is my official Higgins Lake property or Gerrish property. First off, I applaud what you guys are doing. This is not easy, blah, 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 blah. And obviously something needs to be done. My concern is that maybe we're taking it, and again, I have no dog in the fight. I'm not renting any houses. I know a couple people, but that's it. I'm just worried we're taking it a little bit too far. The sunset clause is one of them. Why are we eliminating everything? It seems like a lot of these people, listen to the person who was just talking, are professional people trying to do the right thing, trying to make a couple bucks. They're not trying to make $3 million. And I'm also concerned, Jim talked about, it's fine if we do a couple weeks. It's not fine if we do 10 weeks. I'm way unclear on where 2 weeks becomes 3 weeks and then that's a problem or whatever. Because I see a lot of people using this to defray some of their costs and try and own their property. And, you know, if any of us are aware, taxes have gone up, property values are up, families are being handed to other generations. I want these people to own their properties. And if cutting a few weeks and doing some of this stuff helps them, I'm all in favor of it. And I also think it's great to keep some of these houses full because it helps our economy. And I think that that's not even being thought about is the economic impact of some of these extra people being around, spending money, helping people, creating jobs for everything from contractors to cleaning ladies to everything else. And that's really all I'm trying to communicate. And I hope that's being considered. I totally value, I love how you're having a discussion too. Too often we hear these things and it's just a diatribe. We're all on a soliloquy and you're actually discussing it and having some pushback on some of the issues. So I applaud you guys. My first time at being at one of the Gerrish meetings. So I just want to say thank you for having this dialogue and keeping it going and allowing differences of opinion at the same time pushing it forward. So
Thank you, Mr.
I
Lawrence.
did get your email. Thank you much. Over here, Amanda. Kathy Lash, okay. Kathy, you had the floor.
Hi, thank
Hi.
you. I'm still a little confused and just trying to decide for my own personal knowledge and what I need to do on the primary residency. So as I had mentioned in another meeting that, you know, I have two cottages. One of them is my primary, well, they're both my primary, but at times the larger cottage when my family isn't there is rented out. And I may or may not be in my cottage. I have obligations at home back home at my mom's house, taking care of her. I go to my grandchildren's events, and so I might not be there on a continuous basis. And so for my own personal needs, would I be better off to apply for a license or not apply for a license?
Do you want to, anybody else want to handle that?
How much do you rent your place? May I ask, Kathy? How
Um,
often? Like,
maybe 8 weeks a year.
Kathy, I'm going to explain to you just like I explained to everybody. You know, what we're looking to do is legislate something right now. I'm not looking to tell our enforcement branch how to enforce it. And with that totality of circumstances, certainly those types of pleas are something I'm sure that at the time, if you're running into a problem that are taken into consideration by the short-term rental coordinator and the police department, ultimately, that's done every day, whether it's a state law or whether it is ordinances or otherwise. So I'm careful that I don't want to get across into the enforcement side of this. And part of my problem is because I came from there. You know, we've administrated, I have many ordinances across the time, and they are all done based on the totality of circumstances. No one wants a tattletale community. No one wants to have those types of things, if you will. It pits neighbors and the rest of that. And, you know, the police department has no idea whether you're there for 4 days or you're not there for 4 days. And if at the given time, I guess you suddenly become something different and you're a PRE and you aren't there at all, well, then you probably have something you're going to have somebody looking at. But above and beyond that, I can't imagine the police department, as I told people, this was not meant for the police department to go door to door.
Okay.
Does that answer
Well,
that?
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. I just want to make sure that I follow the rules and that I am appropriate. And it is my only place, home that I own. I just have some other obligations too, and I hate to see a beautiful cottage sitting, you know, empty all summer because I've had to go take care of my mother or something.
Yep, we understand. I am certain that there's some understanding there. These things get legislated. I always call it there's spirits and letters, and that's what law enforcement officials deal with on a daily basis. The spirits and letters of the law, and that's why you hear that phrase "totality of circumstance." There has to be some common sense applied, folks, to anything. You can't legislate everything for everybody with every word in every document. You have to rely on the folks that will be ultimately looking at being responsible for it. So I'm not looking to dump it on the police department. Over the years, we had many that we never conversed with our police department that wound up over there. But again, I have great confidence in our officers' abilities to be able to sort through what the intent of this thing is, and certainly the spirit, and not be hard-hearted for everybody. But on the same token, understand at the end of the day, you know, we've got to impose some type of regulatory standard, or we wouldn't have drafted a document for them. So, thank you, Kathy.
The other part of it is I really applaud you on the septic system and setting some rules and regulations. And, you know, I try to comply by that ever since we've owned the home. It's very important to us with the water. But I hope that gets enforced in the rest of the community too.
Oh, yeah.
Because
Working on it.
yeah, because I mean, I look at homes around me that aren't rental, but they surely have more than 12 people at any time, and
Sure.
tents in the yard and so forth. And I'm in favor of everybody enjoying the property, so I don't have a problem with it. But I hope that short-term rentals don't get picked on when permanent residents are disobeying.
Very good. Thank you.
Thanks, Kathy.
In
Thank
the
you.
room, in the room. Phil, saw your hand pop up. Steve, I got you this next time. You did go with a hand up a little bit ago.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So I don't have a strong position one way or the other as far as short-term rentals, but I did attend the meeting last week and I let it all sink in. I mostly came for the entertainment value.
Gee, thanks. Glad we could provide this TV production.
clear.
for you, Phil.
No.
But, I was sympathetic at the time to some statements made about the economic benefits to businesses. And that sounded real good, but the more I thought of it, the more I don't buy it. I've heard it said before that people don't come up here for the shows, for the shopping, for whatever. They come up here to enjoy the lake and nature. And quite frankly, I think they're just the same as the people that come to the state park. They bring everything they need. Most they do is buy a case of beer at the grocery store. So I don't buy that. I got some other points that I was making notes of while you guys were having your meeting today, and I don't expect answers.
Yep, sure.
But these are the things that came to my mind. I would like to see in the ordinance something that addresses one rental property per owner. So if there's an LLC that owns 3, 4, or a dozen places, one permit, and the same for a family, not having a husband on one and a wife on another, one per family, not a business out of this thing. The other thing that I thought of today was the island. I don't think that you guys can provide adequate services to the island. If there was a fire out there, how would you possibly put it out? If there was a heart attack victim, how would you provide EMS services? How would you get the police out there in time to break up a fight? On and on. I think you're exposing yourself to a liability if you allow short-term rentals on the island. Okay, next is, I can see either now or at the sunset, people dropping out of Airbnb, making a list of people that have rented in the past, giving them a call and doing rentals off the books and collecting money. And I can see you have a penalty in there of $500. People that do these rentals rent for thousands of dollars. $500 is a pittance. They'll continue to do it. $500 won't discourage them. The other
Those
thing,
folks will be rewarded, like we do with any other ordinance, which is we have constant continual complaints as we have with others. They go through civil court.
yeah,
It's not just a $500 ticket.
yeah. But I could see people
Just so you know.
renting
Yep.
off the books
Right.
and not
Right.
applying for a permit at all.
Yep.
And the last thing I had doesn't apply to short-term rentals. It applies to the assessor's duties. So if a person gets I think if a person gets a short-term rental permit, his property has more economic value than another property that doesn't have that permit, and he should be paying a higher property tax because of that. The other thing,
State, I think, is going to have a problem with your evaluation.
whatever.
Potentially.
So the other thing I
State
have
tax
is
commission.
a disparity between what property tax records show as bedrooms, number of bedrooms, 2, 3, or 4, versus what they're going to claim as having bedrooms on their rental agreement.
Okay.
I bet you there's going to be much more, and I bet you they're going to include bedrooms that are above the garage and stuff like that.
Well, there's a double-edged sword to that, because if they increase their bedrooms when they go to get their septic,
Yes, all of those things.
that'll be a problem for them.
Thanks, Phil.
As long as we follow up. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Amanda, Zoom. Nikki O'Neill, you have the floor.
Yeah, I'm just curious. I know there was a lot of conversation on sunsetting. Could one of you just summarize that for me real quick, where you landed?
Jim, go ahead.
Me?
Yeah, sure.
One of you. One of the.
Are
two.
you asking how we came up with the date or the concept?
Just, sunsetting. What does it mean as it applies to this ordinance?
Well, I will speak from my perspective. If we were to go out today and say, per zoning, we don't allow short-term rentals, and that's exactly the case. It's not in the zoning ordinance, so therefore they're not supposed to be here, but they have been. But now there's a lot more of them. And so the compromise that we came up with was let's have the ordinance put in place and give those that have entered into that activity an opportunity to run their business for a few more years and um, find an avenue of what they want to do with that property, whether to turn it into long-term rental, sell it, move into it as their residence, whatever, or make it in just their regular old vacation home, but not cut them off at the knees and have a forced sale and have some sort of economic hardship put on them in that, because we just changed the rules on them all of a sudden. So what we're trying to do is align us back into the zoning that we should have had enforced, years ago, but it just didn't get done because it wasn't viewed as an issue. So that's the number, the year out there, 29 is an arbitrary number, but it was a compromise we came up with to try to make it fair to everybody.
So when you say sunsetting, you're saying the folks that apply for licenses can continue up until 2029?
Correct.
After 29, there will be no licenses issued as it's written.
Okay, that's what I was trying to understand. Okay, thank you.
Unless the new board.
I'm
Change
not
the
leaving
different-
that. That's not me. This board
Right.
right here is voting on a sunset.
Right.
You can't, the problem I have is that people are going to hear what they want to hear.
Oh, yeah,
If you
that's true.
tell them that, that's what they're hearing. I think you need to put that in place. I'm not going to be here
Right.
in 4 years.
Told
I
them.
guarantee it. But
Same here.
I'll be here on Earth.
Yeah.
But
That
I
position.
can't speak to what a future board would do, but
Can't either.
as we agreed, this is now saying that's exactly what's going to happen as it's written.
Next. Steve.
So I think that the train has already left the track, so these comments might be for nothing. But my opinion is that many people are going to get hurt unnecessarily. Okay, people that are to work in the industry. I think there's economic impacts, some percentage, no one knows what it is. And I don't think that that's necessary. In my opinion, short-term rentals are not the problem. Okay, behavior is the problem. Okay, of some percentage of the short-term rentals. And so what you're doing is you're eliminating basically short-term rentals because of the behavior of certain of these people that rent these units. Now, is that a solution to the behavior problem? I guess it is, okay, in that mindset. But if you can put, you guys just today talked about a way where you can actually measure, you can give a license to these people, and then you will be able to measure over time whether you're having a particular problem on a certain property or certain individuals or whatever the case may be. So you could hold those people accountable, remove their licenses, okay? And know the data at that time. How big of a problem is this? And is it more severe than the cabin owners that are using it for their own use? Okay, all that would be known at that time, and you wouldn't have to hurt the people that is relying on this, on the income, you know, the people that are clean and all the things that you've heard over the time. So I know that that's completely different than where you're going, but I do think that you can win this without, you know, necessarily eliminating all these short-term rentals. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Thanks, Steve. Amanda? What's that? Ed Pandyard. Folks, we didn't want to make this turn into another public hearing, so I'm hoping we can start winding down a little bit, because a lot of people I've heard from, I know we've all heard from before. I don't want to be rude, don't want to be crude or anything, but this wasn't intended to be a full-out public hearing again. So Ed, go ahead. You have the floor, sir.
I have one simple question. If dispatch dispatches to Roscommon County Sheriff instead of the Gerrish Police, will that incident be recorded?
Chief. I'm gonna have the chief come to the podium here.
It would be recorded through Central Dispatch and their CAD system. I can't speak on behalf of if they're going to write a report on it or anything like that, or how they're going to document it as a short-term rental. I'm not sure what their RMS capabilities are, and I'm sure they're not going to have a separate file class or report way to document that short-term rental encounter.
What's the chances of Gerrish PD going to that complaint versus somebody else? Where if Gerrish went, it will get.
I mean, it is possible that the county or the state police could get called out to that, being it would be after hours that we didn't have a car on, like in the early morning hours.
Do they let you know that in some fashion? Is
Well,
there a way that you know?
Yeah, we get CAD reports sent from dispatch to us that we review on a regular basis. All the officers review it. So we should be able to catch that as long as dispatch is logging it as like a short-term rental complaint.
That is something that in the enforcement on the operations piece, I think you probably can speak with Central Dispatch Director.
Yeah.
And make sure that we have some of capturing that data, and then you can correspond the two.
Yeah.
I would think in the operations in there. I've done that before with them on other things.
Yeah, that shouldn't be a problem.
including Kelly Beach, Gerrish Township Park, South State Park. So.
Yep.
Yeah, I think there's a way to capture that as the answer to your question.
Okay, very good. That was one simple question. And one other comment is, in your prior meeting, someone said that they didn't feel safe and that they needed to sleep with a weapon on their nightstand. The only comment I'd have is I really don't want to live in that kind of community. So thank you for doing what you're doing.
Thank you, Ed.
That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ed.
Thank you.
Except for thank you.
Teresa Korn, and great document so far, good draft. I wanted to talk about section 5, paragraph B. And I wanted to ask the board, have you considered or would you consider requiring last year's tax return as part of the required information for the application?
Oh,
Yes, I had that.
No. Well, it
What
would
would
give
be
you
the
data.
purpose of
It
that?
would give you data, and that's what you're looking for. It would give you data.
What kind of, what would that?
Well, they have to report rental income.
Right.
You can say how many rentals, that's data. What's the rental income? That's data. Off the book rentals happening, that would be data. Is it possible to require last year's tax return document?
I don't know the answer to that.
Maybe Scott?
I'm hesitant because if
hesitant
it's a
personal document.
If it's an LLC.
Yep.
That either could be reported as somebody's personal on their personal return, or it could be a separate corporate return, depending on how they've structured it. And that would include a lot of information that I would not want you to see as a government official. I wouldn't show you mine.
By the way, anything that we bring in,
That's what-
anything becomes public. Right?
Yeah, so I'm more, that's why I thought it was important to just have a copy of the license, at least show that they obtained a license. I'm not interested in trying to act as an enforcer for the state of Michigan, make sure they've filed and paid every
Completely
bit
opposed
of
to
their
that.
state use tax. That's not, intent was just make sure they were legitimate.
Or in the business of renting. That's their business,
Yeah.
which is commercial.
Or the third party contract.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Teresa.
Can I just add something on
Amanda?
there for you guys to think about? Sorry, can you hear me?
You got Ashley talking.
Sorry. I do know for my property in the state of Florida, they do require me to post or like to report my Airbnb monthly for the tourist tax stuff. So you can get
Right.
reports from Airbnb that wouldn't directly tie to like a tax document that could show my personal income as on it as well. Just a thought.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank
we
you, Ashley.
haven't attached any kind of an additional fee, like a tourist fee or anything at this point, so. That's why you would need. to do
Understanding it's a
that.
very limited opportunity for that. Amanda, you had somebody else? Kelly Hutzman. Kelly.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Kelly, I
Okay.
apologize. I know you're on my answering machine, but I have been away for the last day and a quarter, so.
No, that's okay. I
It's happened
assumed that.
before, Kelly. Go ahead.
Yes. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you.
Okay. So I think you pretty much, a lot of the other people have pretty much answered most of my questions because I had the same question about the sunset clause. But
Yep.
I just wanted to put some input in on the island question that gentleman had.
Yep.
First of all, the island is an HOA and they do not allow rental properties on the island. So there is no rentals ever on the island. They do have a very good plan for EMS and fire and
Yes.
resources out there to handle that. So all those questions should be justified and answered just by those comments. So, but I did really want to stress, because I do own property on the island as well as in subdivision around the lake, that there is no rentals at all ever on the island.
Thanks for that clarification.
Oh, no problem. And then basically what I'm looking for is just to find out, are you going to be implementing a date, or have you already come to that conclusion that we can leave this meeting understanding that we have to be able to get to you to apply for this permit by? So I know how to plan when to be there.
Well, it looks like we just said maybe May 1st. And
I was confused if it was April or May, so that was.
yeah, May, I think the obvious would be we'd shoot for May 1st now to an August for the shall we say, the movement to get in and start the processes.
And then
I don't see an unplanned delay, if you will, on that at all, because I
Okay.
think that it with these, I saw a problem with April 1, but I don't necessarily see a problem with May. So
Agreed. So I also just do want to inject another comment based on some of the comments I've seen in the meeting so far, is as far as people's guests interjecting or stimulating the local economy, I have to put my 2 cents in on that I do have a cabin that I do rent out on Airbnb. We do have a management on site for that. And we have an excellent way of doing things and handling things
yes.
where we're at. So we have 5-star ratings across and reviews across the board on that. And we've been doing this for probably about 5 or 6 years, maybe 5 to 7, I've lost count. But we also use it as a guest cabin and an overflow cabin for family and friends as well.
Sure.
So, and we only do this from basically just before Memorial Weekend to basically just after Labor Day, depending on how many inquiries we have or people interested in staying there. And then we shut it down. So, but while my guests are there, I do provide them access to all of your ordinance information, as far as not being able to moor boats overnight on the lake. If they bring pets, which we don't allow pets, but if they were to, that there is ordinances for keeping the animals on leashes, that there's noise ordinances. We post on our site for advertisement that's not for large events or large crowds of people. We post right on our site that there's a parking limit of only 2 cars. If they need to bring a third car, they usually will call and ask, and we determine whether we want to allow it or not. So there's, you know, a lot that can be said about how you manage one of these rental properties. As far as whether you're, like you guys were talking about, I was actually impressed with that, is whether you're locally able to be on site or very nearby to accommodate needs or handle any issues or concerns that may arise. For the most part, I think most people are pretty peaceful and reasonable families, but occasionally there will be people that come in there not realizing somebody's on site and they'll want to stay up too late, be too loud, and you need to control that for the personal enjoyment of the neighbors. But they do inject a lot into our local economy as far as renting canoes, shopping in our grocery stores, going to the party stores, you know, going to the state parks, going to the local amenities that are offered for them. If it's raining, they might go to the movies, you know, they might eat in the restaurants. So there is a large contribution to our local economy, at least for my guests anyways.
All right.
So that's pretty much all I had to say.
Kelly, thank
regulation, not elimination.
Yeah, Kelly, thank you. I do know that you folks are very much on top of all of those things. I know where that cabin is, and so I do have a little bit of knowledge of that. And I thank you very much for your thoughts today. Thanks, Kelly. And I'm sorry I was gone for about a day and a quarter here.
Oh no, I figured that one out.
So I missed you. I'm sorry.
No, thank you.
You bet. Anybody else in the room? Gentleman back there, come on up. Thank you. I think we're about winding down here. Whatever, 3:15. Two more on Zoom. That's it. Okay.
Hi there. Good
Hello.
afternoon.
Hi.
I understand short-term rentals.
Can you give us your name?
My name is Derek Vansel.
Derek what?
Vansel.
Okay.
I understand short-term rental specific data is not currently tracked. As someone who tends to think in numbers, I'm trying to better understand the scope of this issue. For the calendar year of 2025, approximately how many calls did Gerrish PD respond to involving noise complaints or public nuisance issues, the types that this ordinance is intended to address? That's my first question. And then the second is, of those, how many resulted in warnings, citations, fines, or other sorts of enforcement actions?
Sure. That one could be addressed with him on a separate basis. Yep. Yep.
Okay, great.
Yep. Yeah, you can do that. And again, the data I'm sure is kind of somewhat straw only from the fact that we've never tracked short-term rentals in that program.
Right. I understand.
There's programs that talk about, certain here. He can explain all that file class and that kind of thing, but it's available there.
Okay.
Document. Yes, sir. Thank you. Okay. What's that? Do you folks want to, board, do you want to hear all three, or where do you want to?
Three and done. Three and done.
I just
Okay,
want to
guys.
announce it. We have three right now.
Going for-
Three is it, folks.
You want to talk?
Three is that. Go ahead, Amanda.
I have Fran Burrow.
Okay. Graham?
Oh, yeah. Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity. I shared a letter with the board, so I won't get into too much detail in terms of my overall views.
I recognize the name. Yep. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. So I do have something specific, though. It was talked about earlier, 5B17 in the draft relative to the private road situation. I believe the comment from the board was you would only be looking for approval from contiguous properties, but it doesn't read that way. If you could look at your copy there, maybe I have a different copy, but it says proof of consent from all residents located on the same private road. So I want to bring that back to the table here. I think, understand and acknowledge the board's comments on this draft with the sunset clause. And it sounds to me like the sunset clause is probably going to remain. So under the notion that, that gives us time to determine what to do with our properties up to and including the extreme case, maybe we would sell or have to sell. I guess I would acknowledge that, not necessarily agree to it. However, being on a private road and empowering one or two or three people to basically approve or disapprove your license, to me, seems a little bit unfair. It puts too much power in the hands of one or two residents, and I think in that case, in those cases, it may deny the opportunity for people to have a license until the sunset, so they can figure out what to do with their property. So I would strongly oppose 5B17 the way it's worded. I would strongly request that people on a private road be given the same access to licenses as everyone else.
Or are you open to contiguous, or a lady brought up percentages?
Well, I certainly a percentage I think would be an improvement to what's here, but quite frankly, I don't really understand the need for any sort of approvals. Again, it puts the power in the hands of just a few people.
Okay.
In terms of giving us the opportunity to figure things out over the next 2 to 3 years.
Thank you. Thank you for
Okay.
your point. Thanks for bringing it back.
Thank
Next
you.
one, number 2. Marlene, your floor is yours. Marlene,
Can you hear me now?
we can hear you now.
Great. Thank you very much. I want to applaud this board for doing the right thing and handling these issues with STRs for all property owners. I have a couple questions. Do you feel like the state of Michigan is ever going to make it mandatory for all cities or townships to make it allow all STRs in every city or township?
No, it's too hard. This is hard.
I think there's a reason why they took the pass.
That's why they
to be
went
honest with you.
away. This is very hard to have to do.
This is not just a Higgins Lake problem. This is, Jim mentioned he was in Greece. I was in Aruba, and it's the same problem everywhere. Perceived, let's just go this, perceived problem. I don't want to get in trouble with like declaring problem here. You know, I mean, it's here. And it got into communities while people were trying to decide what was that. So I hope that answers your question.
Likelihood is not going to be by policy set by government officials. It'll be at the state level. It'll be by court proceedings. You're going to see Supreme Court cases that'll rise to the point where that'll set standard. I don't see them having the fortitude to make that decision on behalf of all the local units.
I don't believe so either. I think they'd have done it already.
Right. I agree with you.
Okay.
I some rumblings about that. Also, how do you think will you anticipate lawsuits from homeowners?
Could happen. In the beginning of this, I told my board, my relativeness in the law enforcement field for 42 years tells me that, and that's why Jim makes the statements about court. You know, you can get you can get lawsuits for doing it and lawsuits for not doing it. And ultimately, I'm disappointed. And as I said, the state normally takes every opportunity it can to shake you upside down and squeeze a few pennies out. And they didn't do that here. And instead, they pushed it right down to the locals.
So each township will have to fight these individuals?
It just depends. If there's, you know, when it comes down to lawsuits, it just depends on whether they, you know, class action something, and whether other people agree to get involved in it. You know, you can even get into where some organizations could be asked by the court to submit an amicus brief to give us an opinion. So yeah, we could do this all day long, I'm sure, about lawsuits, but yep. You can get them whether you did something or you didn't do something.
Okay.
My premise has always been, I'd rather be sued for doing something than nothing. Something I can defend, nothing I can't.
Right. Is all this on the website?
Yep.
Okay.
All what?
All the
copy of the.
We have a YouTube channel.
Oh.
We have a TV production
Are you
for
talking
it.
about the draft, Marlene?
Yes.
The draft is on the
Yes.
website also, yeah.
A4 is, and ultimately there'll be another one out there, obviously, that would include anything we talked about, into an A, I presume it'd be an A.5 before the board would look to act on that.
Okay, one last question. And how
Yes.
will you deal with an unlicensed STR? With fines, how will you deal with that?
Right within the statute that it's given at the end in the police powers ordinance, it is a citation that gets issued. Then, of course, due process occurs within the local district court. There's processes in place for that. And then ultimately, if it's, if there's some big challenge to it, it probably goes over to a civil piece. Just like you all have a right to sue us, we could have a right to sue you to adhere to our ordinance if deemed fit. So it goes both ways, I guess, and hope it doesn't go either way, to be honest with you. But
I hear you.
like to solve it as a community. And that's leaving that thing open on the sunset piece. I think, listen, dad is a great idea. Let's take a peek at it. And I hate to say this, I wish I was staying until 29, but I won't be here. But it doesn't mean that the date doesn't exist. I'm pretty sure your chief is going to be here. And one of his jobs is to help our boards kind of look at legal pieces and what's there. So I would hope he has enough wherewithal to say, hey, board, let me give you something and maybe you'll know what to do then. So, and I would fully intend on when I leave here to brief my successor of what this board has done during its time here for roadmaps.
Great. Thank you very much. I appreciate
Absolutely.
it.
Thank you. One more. Who? Kendra Hansen. I know I'm losing my hearing. I know I am. Kendra Hansen.
Hi there. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak.
Sure.
So I do own a house property and I'm curious. I've never rented it out before. I don't know that I ever plan to. But in the event that I would like to, do the current short-term rentals that are out there have an advantage on me if I do choose to apply for licensure?
You're asking?
Is that a question?
Or is that a statement?
Yes, that's a question. I don't know if it's been answered. I had to step away for a
No, they
little
don't.
bit, and I apologize if I'm
No.
repeating, but
No, nobody has an advantage over another. It will be a first come, first served basis, I believe is what we determined.
That's
Okay.
that's what it is. And if you comply like anyone else would have to comply with the ordinance or otherwise, it is what it is.
okay.
Okay.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Very good. Board, everybody, once again, I want to tell you that I so appreciate, as I did in the public hearing, I appreciate the decorum in which we all have followed. And we will always have dissent, and disrespect is something else. And everybody, I have to say, I'm very impressed. I'm thankful as a person who's supposed to moderate this thing. I'm very thankful for that everybody has done that. And we'll continue moving forward from today. And Jim, I will get with you and we can maybe start merging some stuff.
So
And-
I'm gathering what we're gonna do is we're going to implement the changes that we've talked about today.
Yes.
Put them out for review for the board.
Yes.
And then approve them.
Yep.
And then put them out for public inspection after we've approved them.
Well, after we've approved them, it's 30 days in the paper that it goes, and it moves forward.
But we're not gonna post them on the site until we've approved that.
Yeah, we have to approve an A.5.
Make sure
As
everybody
an
understands.
ordinance we intended to pass.
Right.
We would have to do that.
Okay.
All right. So I would entertain a motion at this time to adjourn this meeting. At, what is it?
Make that motion.
3:30,
3:31.
3:31. Michelle made it. Is there support?
I'll support.
Support, trustee Hoppy. Any further discussion, board? No discussion, just a comment. Thank you, board. This is the kind of spirited discussion I wanted to have. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, the same, motion carries.